Imagine coming home after a long day, expecting to relax with your loved one, only to discover a clue that shatters everything you believed about your relationship. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about secrets, lies, and the one mistake that exposed it all. My name is Alex, and I thought I had the perfect marriage. Maria and I had been together for 7 years. We shared dreams of traveling the world and supported each other through life's ups and downs. We met in college. I was studying computer science, and Maria was in business school. From the moment we met, we were inseparable. Our friends called us the power couple because we always seemed to have each other's backs. I worked long hours as a software engineer, while Maria ran a small online business from home. She sold handmade jewelry and often spent her evenings answering messages from customers or posting on social media. We trusted each other completely, or at least, that's what I thought. It all started with a forgotten phone. One evening, I came home late from work. I was exhausted, but seeing Maria sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, made me feel at peace. She smiled and kissed me on the cheek, then got up, saying she was going to take a shower. As she walked away, she left her phone on the kitchen counter. I didn't mean to snoop. In fact, I rarely ever touched her phone, but then a message popped up. The screen lit up, and for a moment, my eyes flicked to it without thinking. It was from someone named D. The message was simple. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. Same time tomorrow? My stomach dropped. I blinked, wondering if I had imagined it. Slowly, I picked up the phone. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the message. Who was D? What happened yesterday? And what did same time tomorrow mean? 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. I almost unlocked the phone, but I stopped myself. I put it back exactly where Maria had left it, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe it was about work, or a friend, or something completely innocent. But deep down, something felt wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. Maria lay next to me, breathing softly, her face peaceful. But my mind kept replaying that message over and over. The next morning, I casually asked Maria who D was. She barely looked up from her coffee and shrugged. Just a client, she said. Her voice was light, almost too casual. I nodded, forcing myself to believe her. But then, other things started to happen. Little things. Maria became more protective of her phone, always keeping it face down. She started stepping out to take calls, her voice hushed, her laughter soft. Sometimes, I would catch her smiling at messages she never shared. And then there were the nights she came home late, saying she had been out with friends. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was overthinking, but the feeling wouldn't go away. One evening, Maria said she was meeting a friend for coffee. She kissed me goodbye, grabbed her purse, and left. But something didn't sit right with me. Without really thinking about it, I grabbed my keys and followed her. I kept my distance as she walked into a quiet cafe. Through the window, I saw her sit down at a corner table. A man was already waiting for her. I watched as they talked, their heads close together. They laughed. Maria touched the man's arm. And then I saw it. She reached across the table and held the man's hand. My worst fears were confirmed. I drove home in a daze. When Maria returned that night, she acted like everything was normal. She kissed me and asked how my day was. I stared at her, wondering how she could lie so easily. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I held back. I needed more proof. Over the next few days, I watched her closely. One afternoon, while Maria was in the shower, I finally gave in and unlocked her phone. What I found made my blood run cold. There were dozens of messages from D. They joked, shared secrets, and planned meetings. One message stood out. It read, "I wish we could be together all the time, soon." That night, I waited for Maria to come home. She walked through the door, smiling, as if nothing had changed. I stood in the living room, phone in hand. "Who is David?" I asked. Maria froze. The color drained from her face. "What?" "Don't lie to me," I said. My voice was calm, but inside I was shaking. "I saw the messages. I saw you with him." For a moment, Maria said nothing. Then her face crumpled and she started to cry. She confessed everything. David was someone she met through her business. At first, they just talked. It was innocent. But over time, things changed. What started as casual conversations turned into long nights of messaging. Then came the meetings, the stolen moments, the lies. She swore she never meant to hurt me. She said it was a mistake. She begged for forgiveness. But I felt like my whole world had collapsed. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had betrayed me. In the days that followed, I felt numb. Maria kept apologizing, promising it was over, that she wanted to fix things. But how do you fix something when the foundation is shattered? I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to believe that we could rebuild what we had. But another part of me knew that things would never be the same. Eventually, we parted ways. Maria moved out, and I was left alone in the house we once shared. The nights were the hardest. The silence was deafening. But slowly, I began to heal. I focused on my work. I reconnected with friends. I traveled, something Maria and I had always dreamed of doing together. Looking back, I realized that betrayal leaves scars, but it also teaches you about yourself. I learned that trust is fragile, and that once it's broken, it's never the same. What would you do if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Story 2. The business trip that changed everything. I never imagined my life could fall apart because of a simple business trip. Looking back, I wonder if the signs were always there, and I was just too blind to see them. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of how my marriage crumbled right in front of me while I stood frozen, unable to stop it. Emily and I had been married for almost 10 years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. Or so I thought. She was my best friend. We had built a life together, made promises, and shared dreams. I trusted her completely. I never even considered that she might be capable of lying to me. Things started to change when she told me she had to go on a work trip. Emily worked in marketing, and these kinds of conferences weren't unusual. I didn't even question it when she packed her bags, kissed me goodbye, and left. We talked on the phone every night at first. She told me about her meetings, the hotel, the dinners with colleagues. Everything sounded normal, but after a few days, something shifted. Her replies became slower, shorter. When we talked, she seemed distracted. I'd ask about her day, and she'd give me vague answers, almost like she was trying to avoid details. One night, I sent her a simple, "Good night, love you" text. She didn't reply until morning, saying she had fallen asleep early. Emily had always been a night owl. It didn't make sense. When she came back, she seemed different. Her laugh didn't feel as genuine, and her hugs felt distant. I kept telling myself I was imagining things. Maybe she was just tired from the trip. But the little things kept piling up. She started guarding her phone, taking it with her everywhere. Late at night, I'd hear the faint sound of typing while she lay next to me in bed. When I asked who she was messaging, she'd brush it off. "Just a friend from work," she'd say. One day, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. It lit up with a notification. My heart pounded as I glanced at the screen. A message from someone named Jay. It read, "Can't wait to see you again." Counting down the days. I stood there frozen, staring at the screen. My hands felt numb. When she came back, I didn't say anything. I wanted to believe there was some kind of explanation. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. I picked up her phone and opened her messages. What I found made my heart shatter. There were dozens of texts between her and this Jay. They were flirty, intimate, like reading love letters meant for someone else. My stomach turned. One message stuck with me. "I wish we could stay in that hotel forever, just you and me." The conference. That's where it started. The pieces clicked together in my mind, and suddenly everything made sense. The distance, the late-night messages, the guarded phone. It had all been right in front of me, and I hadn't seen it. The next morning, I confronted her. I remember every second of that moment, the way her eyes widened when I said his name, the silence that stretched between us. Then came the tears, the apologies, the excuses. She said it didn't mean anything, that it was just a mistake. But how do you mistake weeks of lying? How do you mistake falling in love with someone else? I packed my things and left that night. I couldn't look at her without feeling like a fool. The worst part, I still loved her. But love isn't enough when trust is gone. Story 3. The gym partner. You know that feeling when you realize everything you believed was a lie? When you look back and suddenly every moment feels different, every memory tainted? That's what happened to me. My name is Ryan, and this is the story of how my wife's new hobby destroyed our marriage. Lisa and I had been together for 8 years. We were the couple everyone thought would last forever. She was my rock, my partner, my everything. We laughed, we traveled, we supported each other through thick and thin. Or at least, that's what I thought. It all started when Lisa decided to get into fitness. She had never been much of a gym person, but one day she announced she was signing up for a membership. I was proud of her. She seemed excited, and I wanted to support her new passion. She started going almost every evening after work, always coming home energized and glowing. She'd talk about her workouts, her progress, and Matt. At first, Matt was just a name, her gym buddy. Apparently, they met during a group class, and he'd helped her with her form. I didn't think much of it. People make friends at the gym. But soon, Matt became a regular part of our conversations. She'd mention how funny he was, how helpful. I tried not to feel jealous. I trusted her. But then the little things started adding up. Lisa began staying out later. Extra cardio, she'd say. Or, Matt showed me a new routine. Sometimes she'd come home freshly showered, which struck me as odd. Why not wait until you get home? Then there was the phone. She never let it out of her sight. She used to leave it on the counter, but now it was always tucked away. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I waited until she was asleep, then picked up her phone. My heart raced as I opened her messages. There he was, Matthew. The texts were casual at first. Talk about workouts, jokes, motivation, but then they changed. You looked so good today. I wish we had more time together. And finally, last night was incredible. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. My hands shook as I scrolled through message after message. My wife, my Lisa, the woman I loved, was sneaking around behind my back. The next day, I confronted her. I'll never forget the look on her face. Shock, guilt, and then tears. She swore it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything, but it meant everything to me. I packed my bags that night and walked out. The gym became a place of betrayal, a reminder of everything I'd lost. To this day, I can't hear the word workout without feeling a knot in my stomach. Love is fragile, and sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us the deepest.